Good evening, I'm Ryan Bonazzo. Thank you for joining us. The chair of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board has responded to a highly critical letter released by the Police Association to local media. The association, which represents 350 police officers and other staff, says its members have serious concerns about their senior management team. Police Board Chair Kristen Oliver now says they're dedicated to making changes. The letter included survey results showing low morale and distrust for management felt by the majority of officers. In a written response back to the association, the board promised to make sure police officers have everything they need to do their jobs. The response outlined some of the details of the organization's strategic plan released on October 19th, noting that the association was in fact an integral voice in creating it, but Oliver recognizes the officers' concerns for their own safety and that of the overall community.
Certainly are concerned with what they're expressing. I think any one of us with eyes would see that our city is certainly in crisis right now, and I feel for our police service, and it's getting to a point where we have to further dive into some collaborative approach now and ensuring that the chief and the deputy chief are listening to the association and that we are working collectively to address their needs, but better yet, to serve the policing needs of this community.
Going forward, Oliver says the board wants to work together to address the association's concerns. The board also wants to find solutions for the city's rising crime rate. Ontario is offering a boost to hundreds of thousands of workers. The province is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour starting January 1st. But with a June election on the horizon, some are asking why now? The Ford government canceled the increase to $15 after coming into power in 2018. Colin DeMello reports.
From the gas station to the grocery store, the cost of living has been squeezing families in Ontario, and paychecks have not kept up. But today, the Ford government announced minimum wage in Ontario will once again increase to $15 an hour.
This change would mean a full-time minimum wage worker could see a raise of $1,350 a year.
The general minimum wage will increase from the current rate of $14.35 an hour, while the minimum wage for liquor servers will increase from $12.55 to $15 an hour. The increase, while no doubt welcome by workers, comes 3 years after the Ford government canceled it in the first place. In 2018, the premier claimed it was burdening employers, preventing them from creating jobs.
Meanwhile, the cost of everything is going up. Auto insurance is up, hydro's up, gas is up, milk is going up 8%, butter is going up 12%. Everything is going up, but people's wages.
The premier says the one major difference between then and now, COVID-19.
We didn't have the pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. Everyone's been facing a challenge over the last 20 months. Things were a lot different back in 2018. Good to see you.
What is also different is the premier wasn't facing re-election in 2018. Now, with the 2022 election around the corner, the Ford government has made peace with unions, making announcements more fitting of left-of-center parties.
This is a complete election ploy. We're 8 months away, and I think the premier knows that he has been wrong, and I think that he needs to make amends.
And union leaders, it seems, sense an opportunity.
In order to get to a $22 living wage in Toronto, you're going to have to go through 15. A living wage in London, Ontario is about $16.20. So do I think $15 is wonderful? The answer is no. But do I think it's a good start? The answer is yes.
So as long as the premier keeps saying yes to pre-election spending, Doug Ford has made friends of his one-time foes.
Thunder Bay anti-poverty advocates and the Chamber of Commerce have differing views on Ontario's minimum wage increase. Danielle Bain brings us local reaction to today's announcement by the Ford government.
It's not quite enough.
According to the Thunder Bay Poverty Reduction Strategy Coordinator, Bonnie Crisawati, the bump from $14.35 to $15 an hour for minimum wage is a step in the right direction. It gets Thunder Bay workers closer to the estimated living wage here, calculated at $16.30 an hour. The previous Liberal government planned to raise minimum wage to $15 back in 2019, but the Ford government delayed it.
NDP and Liberal parties were very much for the rise in minimum wage, but the Conservative Party was very much for it, but they wanted to wait. They wanted to be they were a little more hesitant. So not surprised that it took this long. I was expecting it because they did seem pretty positive about it. Could it be because it's an election year as well? Possibly.
While most minimum wage earners will receive an extra 65 cents an hour, servers' wages will increase from $12.55 to $15 starting January 1st. President of the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce, Charla Robinson, says that's just not enough time for businesses to plan for, which could lead to job cuts, specifically in the bar and restaurant industry.
The proposed 19.5% increase to the minimum wage for liquor servers is really quite shocking at this time when restaurants have been so hard hit through this pandemic. And it really feels like it's unfairly targeting the hospitality sector at the worst possible time.
Following the initial wage hike on New Year's, the Ford government plans to raise the minimum wage in line with the rate of inflation every October. Danielle Bain, TBT News.
To COVID-19 now, 2 new cases were reported today by the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. One comes from a First Nation community, while the other is elsewhere in the district outside the Thunder Bay area. The exposure sources are still unknown at this time. There are now 15 active cases in the health unit's catchment area. The Northwestern Health Unit has 1 new case today in the Rainy River District. There are 3 active cases across the NWHU. On the vaccine front, just over 1,900 shots were administered last week across the Thunder Bay District. 530 of those were first doses. According to the Ministry of Health, 93% of the eligible population has at least 1 dose, and 89% are fully vaccinated. Those numbers are both second highest in Ontario. OPP in the Rainy River District are investigating a 2-vehicle collision which claimed the life of a Winnipeg man. It happened Saturday morning on Highway 621 in Dawson Township when a southbound car collided with a northbound tow truck. The 36-year-old driver of the car was pronounced dead on scene. The 2 occupants of the tow truck were not injured. Thunder Bay City Council has approved a weight restriction on East Avenue. It's part of an effort to prevent 18-wheelers from parking overnight at County Fair Mall. Councillors voted unanimously in favor of changing the bylaw, prohibiting vehicles weighing more than 10,000 kilograms. Neighbors of County Fair have long complained about the trucks idling all night and the associated noise and exhaust smell. The City Bylaw Office hopes to eventually provide further support to police, formalizing additional offenses to further deter the trucks from parking in residential areas.
Wondering if we could get some comments on additional measures, what those mean, what we're working on, and what could we do to ultimately achieve our objectives here.
This bylaw creates a highway traffic offense of disobeying a sign if a truck moves down that roadway and isn't allowed under the exceptions. And that is the biggest stick that the municipality really has with international companies.
A new bylaw, including the changes, will be presented for council approval on December 6th. City Council also made a pledge last night to significantly improve the city's environmental efforts. Thunder Bay is now one of more than 100 cities around the world to adopt the Race to Zero campaign, which moves ahead timelines to cut emissions. Also from last night, administration will be tasked with creating a more cohesive strategy on homelessness and poverty. Corey Nordstrom has the details.
The city of Thunder Bay has joined the Race to Zero, a global campaign backed by the UN, doubling down on its commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050.
In terms of, Chair, the criteria in terms of joining this race, we've actually done a lot of the work already.
Terms of the pledge include the addition of zero-emissions transit buses by 2025 and developing a plan to make municipal buildings carbon neutral by 2030. Both of these goals are outlined in the city's previous net zero strategy, with timelines moved ahead 10 and 5 years respectively. Members of council voted unanimously in favor of the pledge to reduce emissions by 55% below 2016 levels by 2030, but were concerned about costs related to a more aggressive plan.
I'm interested in how this is affecting our budget. It's very easy to raise our hand.
It's going to cost us a little bit up front, but what will it save us down the road? As we insulate our buildings more, we're saving money on heating. We're saving money on electricity. So there is economic benefit.
Later in the night, those around the table supported a request by Councillor Mark Bentz to have city staff create a strategy on how to better leverage funding on homelessness.
I think our political influences and resources can accelerate the work that's being done in our community to lessen the harm.
Administration will report back by December 20th with options on a multifaceted approach that could include upping the funding for homelessness. Some council members were concerned about spending more on a provincial responsibility, but note that this could give an inventory of what the city currently spends on this file.
I am confident as a city we do more than most municipalities in Ontario for sure. But I'd definitely like to see a complete list.
The city's Intergovernmental Affairs Committee also outlined their priority list for 2022's Roma Conference. In the gathering of rural Ontario leaders, they will push the Ford government for more support on a crisis center for mental health and addictions, infrastructure, and ask about a reduction in funding for health units. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Local police are warning about a spike in cases of the so-called grandchild scam in the city. The fake calls mainly target seniors, with the fraudster claiming to be the person's grandchild in some sort of trouble and needing money. Police say the culprits often use fake local phone numbers and send couriers to collect money. Local residents are urged to educate elderly family members about the grandchild scam before they become a target. The Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce has launched a new public awareness campaign called Choose Tbay First. The effort includes a series of TV commercials. It kicked off today at the Sal restaurant in Westfort. Mitchell Ringos explains what it's all about.
This is one of the TV commercials that will be rolling out weekly right through the holiday shopping season. Every week, the campaign will tell a different story that hopes to bring awareness to the importance of shopping local and how every local purchase impacts our community. Chamber of Commerce President Charlotte Robinson says she wants the public to remember all the amazing businesses they can go to right here in Thunder Bay.
Now is especially the time when we need to be supporting our community to help our businesses recover from the pandemic so that they can continue to support the jobs of our neighbors, to support the sports team for our kids, to support our daughter's dance class or our son's piano lessons, whatever that is. So this is an especially important time for folks to choose Tbay First and support local businesses. They need it more than ever.
The weekly video spots feature testimonials from customers and employees from local businesses, charities, sports teams, and other local organizations to educate consumers about the ways money spent locally returns to all of us through a stronger, healthier community. This week's commercial features a tour around Westfort with Aaron Gillingham from the Sal restaurant. He says he was happy to take part in a campaign that will make a change in the community.
Promoting something like this is needed more because there's so many buying decisions nowadays. I mean, it's so easy to click onto Amazon or Walmart or whatever it is online when sometimes people don't really have local top of mind. So like having something like this, a campaign this strong, put on by the Chamber is a really cool way to prioritize small business here in town.
Starting November 15th, the campaign will also include 4 weeks of contests on Facebook and Instagram to help spread awareness and encourage community participation by supporting local businesses. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
The troublesome 2021 forest fire season has officially come to an end. It was a far busier year than most, with several evacuations and thick smoke blanketing the Northwest for much of the summer. As Adam Riley reports, some records were broken this year as well.
It's surely one that will earn a place in our organization's memory for in many respects.
Out of the record-shattering 793,000 hectares burned by forest fires in Ontario this year, the vast majority were here in the Northwest, with nearly 780 hectares burned as a result of the 989 fires that ignited between the Manitoba-Ontario border and Marathon. According to Fire Information Officer Chris Marchand, much of the heavier fire activity, which saw larger community-threatening fires, took place in the Red Lake region.
Particularly where we call the elbow. It's where that corner of the boundary makes an angled turn. That area in particular is very fire prone. It's a combination of the fuels and the weather pattern. We had lots of hot, dry, windy weather and with very little rainfall. And that is a perfect recipe for those very large fires that we saw in those areas.
This year, weather stations in that elbow area recorded half or even 1/3 of the normal amount of rainfall. And as felt by area farmers, most of the Northwest experienced drought conditions. And as a result, the AFFES will be tracking those conditions and factoring them into the fire hazard for next spring. Marchand notes, in addition to the overall hectares burned in the Northwest, two of the largest fires seen in the region, one in the Kenora District and one in the Red Lake District, surpassed records themselves, one of which achieving a notable accolade.
The Kenora 51 fire is actually the largest fire on record now in Ontario at 200,677 hectares. It surpassed a 2011 fire from Sioux Lookout. And that fire accounted for, 1/4 of the hectares burned this season in Ontario.
As for 2022, Marchand says it's difficult to predict what the next fire season will bring, but is hopeful they will see manageable situations that will have minimal impact on people, lives, and property. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Police have begun decorating another large tree outside the service's headquarters. The Tree of Hope project raises money and awareness to solve crimes involving missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. This is the third tree to be decorated with red lights, with the fourth and final tree to be added to the display next year. Police and fire rescue volunteers are placing 1,000 red Christmas lights on the giant spruce. Another smaller tree has been added to be covered in orange lights for the Every Child Matters campaign, which honors residential school victims. City Police Constable Charlene Bordeaux came up with the idea several years ago, and local police have now put out a challenge to other services to follow suit. Bordeaux says she's surprised at how many have joined in the effort.
We had put the challenge out last year, so Sudbury Police Service contacted me, and then Timmins Police Service, and then Barrie, and I just found out today we also have the Union of Chiefs and Council for Manitoulin Island, which provide police services for 6 different Indigenous communities on Manitoulin Island.
An opening prayer, smudging, and drumming ceremony will be held on Sunday, November 14th at the police headquarters, starting at 5:30, followed by the tree lighting at 7 p.m. The public is invited to attend. Well, Fiona, if it wasn't such an important cause, they may not have wanted to decorate those trees today. It was a frosty one out there. I saw some snow flurries out there.
Well, we did have some brief flurries this afternoon. It kind of came and went fairly quickly, so for the most part, it was just under mostly cloudy skies. Winds from the west-northwest, 11 to 33 kilometers per hour. Started out with a low of -3 and a wind chill close to -7, but we did hit a high of 2, which is where we were expecting to go, so not too bad. To the west, though, there's a fair amount of cloud cover in Fort Frances. They're at 2, 1 in Kenora, Dryden below the freezing mark, Red Lake, a little bit less cloud, but relatively dry, 0 Celsius. As we head further eastward, we're at -1 in both Sioux Lookout and Armstrong. Greenstone on the Goose Egg as well under mostly cloudy skies. It isn't until you get down into Sault Ste. Marie that right now under partly cloudy skies they're at 4 Celsius, but they had light snow showers all last night and throughout the day until about a couple of hours ago. But the big thing was that the overnight lows and the daytime highs wasn't a huge amount of difference between those two temperatures. It was usually about 4 or 5 degrees difference. So it was definitely a cool day in the region. Now tonight we will be back below the freeze mark at -4, and we could see a couple of light snow showers this evening and overnight. But don't pull out those shovels just yet. I'll have more details later on in the news hour.
Thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is encouraging other nations to put a price on carbon. We'll have that and other details from the COP26 conference in Glasgow as your Tuesday News Hour continues.
Showing that we are doing things. We're making big decisions at home.